Hello Internet folks, and hello to the fans of the basic programming language. I want to demonstrate a work in progress here. It's something I'm calling a Basic Anywhere Machine Big Boy feature. Basic Anywhere Machine being a small programming language meant for hobbyists, people who want to learn how to program, people who may want to use it to store segments of code for some other basic that they usually work with. I do want to demonstrate here something that this basic can do that you may find not too many other basic implementations can do. It's certainly a feature that I like. Let's show this is going to be a silly example, but I just want to show how to use meta programming to have one basic program available in multiple languages. So here's just a simple program. All it does a few prints, that's all. And if we run it, we see it shows in English how to request a bottle of beer and how to say thank you after you're done. Right? No biggie. It's kind of a silly program, but this will do for the purpose of this video. And when we're ready to deploy a program, we want to export it, and we want to export that to a standalone HTML file, the production version that we want to export. And I already exported it a little while earlier just to test, but let's replace that file. Okay, and let's go take a peek at it. And now we've got a nice little HTML file that we can run, and runs the program. How to ask a beer in English. And let's say we want to have this program work in multiple languages. I'm going to copy some pre-written code here, and this is meta programming or macro programming code. First of all, a little comment. Now, this being an HTML comment, it's there while working in Basic Anywhere Machine, but when we export, this HTML comment will disappear. And my export process, I need to fix it up a little bit, but for the moment I need to include a \n for every line of macro programming that we put in our basic program. Eventually, I'm hoping we won't need that, but for now we do. And lowercase. And anybody who knows HTML or JavaScript, you'll realize that your \n is a carriage return. So it's just something I need, otherwise it messes up my basic program. And the next thing we're going to need is a variable to say, hey, what do we want this program to run in? English, French, or Spanish? And we want a variable to say which one of these the program should run in, and part of the syntax to say, hey, this variable is available for all these lines of code up to a certain point. So we need to say, okay, well, the variable lang for language is done here, so if there's any programming after that, it doesn't have access to the variable. And let's take a look at how it looks like when the preprocessor fixes it up to give us our final result, which is a basic program. And we see that it's excluded the vars, these lines, and it's excluded the comment. It's kept the \n. That's okay for this purpose. The \n doesn't mess anything up. The program doesn't see it, and when it's actually run, it's just necessary for exporting later. And if you notice, it does leave blank lines, other than the \ns, I guess. I kind of like a visual cue to let me know what's going on. That's not something you can do, and you might find this a little bit kind of blatantly obnoxious. But I like some emojis in there just so I can quickly see where things are. So about, I just add that to my code. And you'll notice proceeded with a single quote, so that way the basic program will see whatever is left here. If there's anything left, we'll see it as a comment and not run it. And now, let's get the magic. Let's get our multi-event language version of this print statement going. And I'll do the same thing on the bottom part and explain what all of this is without getting too deep into the weeds. What we're looking at here, everything I'm calling metaprogramming, is actually TiddlyWiki. Some people will call it wiki text. I like to call it TiddlyWiki script, or just TW script. And if you go take a look at tiddlywiki.com, you'll find things like vars and these triple bracket things and the square bracket things. You'll find it all in here. I'm not going to do a course on TiddlyWiki here, but let's at least explain a little bit what's going on down here. It's a little bit shorter. So print statement, double quotes, that's all the stuff needed for basic, but then everything inside those double quotes is something that the preprocessor will recognize. And it will recognize it because of the triple curly brackets on either side. Let's say, oh, okay, here's some code that needs to be processed before we feed the basic program to the interpreter. Now what's going on here is the triple brackets say, hey, this is a filter. And in the filter there are items, and it says it's a list of items, or it would normally result in a list. And what we have is we have one item says thank you. Hey, that's the English version. Then we have another item that says merci, the French version, and gracias, the Spanish version. And that will result in a list of those items. Each one is an item in the list. And now we've got a command that says, hey, look, grab the nth item. And the parameter for nth is lang. And lang just happens to be the variable that we've got described up here. Now where lang is equal to 3 for Spanish, we're going to see that the result of this is going to be the Spanish text, the third item. And it's the same thing up here. We've got English, French, and Spanish versions of text. And whatever variable we set here is what will decide what will actually be rendered inside of those double quotes for the basic program. Now, Spanish being our choice at the moment, let's take a peek at the code, and we'll see what we have is the program after processing, resulting in just the Spanish bits appearing in the basic program. And if we were to change the 3 to a 2, we would get hopefully French. And sure enough, there it is in the French version. So with metaprogramming, we can use it for localization purposes. Now, I didn't get fancy here. There'd be ways to set this up so it's not quite as maybe laborious process, but certainly this demonstrates that we can have one source code with bits and pieces in there that will work or not work depending on the choices we make at the very top. Now let's export this program, and you'll see that every time I make a change here we're in development mode. I'm just going to export the development version of this program, and I'm going to export both the source code so we can take a peek at it after. So let's call this the English version. English version of the source code and the English version of the running program. And this is kind of like creating an executable in a software development environment where you can compile your code. In this particular case, we're exporting our code to an HTML file that includes the interpreter and the basic program. Now, we've got the English version out. Let's get the French version. And let's export that. And again, just for the giggles, we'll get the development code. And get the development version of the standalone program. Now, maybe you can imagine using this kind of thing, not just for localization, but any scenario where you may have one program where you want to generate slightly tweaked versions for maybe different customers or different audiences. Let's get the Spanish version of this project and export. And again, development version of the Spanish program, Español. Save that. And let's do the same thing for the standalone development program. And now we're going to take a look at each one of these files that we just created to see what the results are. Let's take a peek at the English version first, development. Let's take a look at the source code. And we're going to see, look, there's our basic program. The \n's are there, that's fine. Something that I'll get rid of at some point. And let's close this off. Let's go back and let's look at all these folders I got open. Let's take a peek at, we just looked at the code, let's run it, see what that looks like. There's the English version of our program, thank you very much, that's great. And let's take a peek at the French one. First of all, the source code, there it is, this one will be run. And we'll sanity check. So there's the French version. Oh, okay, no accents. Yeah, that's something that I'm going to have to figure out how to do at some point too. And then let's take a look at the Spanish version. Una botella de cerveza, por favor. And if we run it, una botella de cerveza, por favor. So that's one neat use case for metaprogramming. And it's something that, okay, it's a work in progress. I got some things to do, but it's one of these things I'd consider a big boy feature, a pretty advanced feature for software development environments. It may seem kind of a silly feature to have for what's really a small programming tool, but basing it on a machine as a place to learn programming and certain fundamental features in programming environments, this is kind of nice to have. And then from the hobbyist perspective, right, it adds a little spice. Anyway, hope this was informative to you. Keep an eye on it. It's a work in progress, something refined and eventually hope to document so people know how to use this kind of thing. All right, cheers.